Good afternoon, class. Today we're going to be doing our language arts lesson. So if y'all remember from last time, we went over characters and how they affect events in the story. So I'm going to pass out a little note card for y'all to do a little bit of a warm-up. I have pencils too. So to refresh your memory, last class we just kind of read a story and then went over the character traits of the characters in the story and how they affect the sequence of events in the story. So on this note card, I just want you to tell me just a basic definition of what a character is and then what an event in a story is. Should give me about 1 more minute to wrap that up. Alright, are we good? Alright, so can somebody tell me what they wrote down for the character part?
The subject of a story or who the events happen to.
That's good. Anything else? Okay. So we also talk about the main character, which could be a person, or some stories even have animals in them. Right, so what did you put for the event part?
I just said what's taking place throughout the story.
That's good. Good job. Okay. So now that y'all remember what characters and events in the story are, today we're going to be reading a new book, and we're just going to talk about how her actions and the way she feels in the story lead to the sequence of events inside the story. All right, so this book is called How Wilma Rudolph Became the World's Fastest Woman. I'm just going to ask you questions while we read it too, so make sure you're paying attention. All right. No one expected such a tiny girl to have a first birthday. In Clarksville, Tennessee in 1940, life for a baby who weighed just over 4 pounds at birth was sure to be limited. But most babies didn't have 19 older brothers and sisters to watch over them. Most babies didn't have a mother who knew home remedies and a father who worked several jobs. Most babies weren't Wilma Rudolph. So who's our main character we know about so far? Good job. All right, so Wilma did not celebrate her first birthday, and everyone noticed that as soon as this girl could walk, she ran or jumped instead. She worried people, though. She was always so small and sickly. If a brother or sister had a cold, she got double pneumonia. If one of them had measles, Wilma got measles too, plus mumps and chickenpox. Her mother always nursed her at home. Doctors were a luxury for the Rudolph family, and anyway, only one doctor in Clarksville would treat black people. So there she is, running and jumping. Just before Wilma turned 5, she got sicker than ever. Her sisters and brothers helped all the family pile blankets on her, trying to keep her warm. During that sickness, Wilma's left leg twisted inward and she couldn't move it back. Not even Wilma's mother knew what was wrong. The doctor came to see her then. Besides having scarlet fever, he said Wilma had also been stricken with polio. In these days, most children who got polio either died or were permanently crippled. There was no cure. The news spread about Clarksville, Wilma, that lively girl that would never walk again. So what do we find out on this page?
She got polio.
Gotcha. Good job. But Wilma kept moving on anyway. Any way she could. By hopping on one foot, she could get herself around the house, to the outhouse in the backyard, and even on Sundays to church. Wilma's mother urged her on. Miss Rudolph had plenty to do. Cooking, cleaning, sewing patterned floor sacks into clothes for her children, now 22 in all. Yet twice every week, she and Wilma took the bus to the nearest hospital that would treat black patients. It was 50 miles away in Nashville. They rode together in the back, the only place that blacks were allowed to sit. Doctors and nurses at the hospital helped Wilma do exercises to make her paralyzed legs stronger. At home, Wilma practiced them constantly, even when it hurt. To Wilma, what hurt the most was that the local school wouldn't let her attend because she couldn't walk. Tearfully and lonely, she watched her brothers and sister run off to school each day, leaving her behind. Finally, tired of crying all the time, she decided that she had to fight back. So why wouldn't they let her go to school? Good job. Wilma worked so hard at her exercises that the doctors decided she was ready for a heavy steel brace. With the brace supporting her legs, she didn't have to hop anymore. School was possible at last. But it wasn't the happy place that she had imagined. Her classmates made fun of her brace. During playground games, she could only sit on the sidelines. Twitchy with impatience, she studied the other kids for hours, memorizing moves, watching the ball zoom through the rim of the bushel basket they used as a hoop. Wilma fought the sadness by doing more leg exercises. Her family always cheered her on, and Wilma did everything she could to keep them from worrying about her. At times, her leg really did seem to be getting stronger. One Sunday, on her way to church, Wilma felt especially good. She and her family had always found strength in their faith, and church was Wilma's favorite place in the world. Everyone she knew would be there, talking and laughing, praying and singing. It would be just the place for her to try the bravest things she had ever done. So what do y'all think she's going to try?
Walk better.
Gotcha. She hung back while people filed the old building. Standing alone, the sound of hymns coloring the air. She unbuckled her heavy brace and set it by the church's front door. Taking a deep breath, she moved one foot in front of the other. Her knees trembling violently, she took her mind off her knees by concentrating on taking another breath, and then another. So she did walk. And there she is walking through the church. Whispers rippled throughout the gathering. Wilma Rudolph was walking. Row by row, heads turned toward her as she walked along down the aisle. Her large family, all her family's friends, everyone from school, each person stared wide-eyed. The singing never stopped. It seemed to burst right through the walls and into the trees. Finally, Wilma reached a seat in the front and began singing too. Wilma practiced walking as often as she could, and when she was 12 years old, she was able to take off the brace for good. She and her mother realized she could get along without it. As soon as Wilma sent that box away, she knew her life was beginning all over again. After years of sitting on the sidelines, Wilma couldn't wait to throw herself into basketball, the game she had most liked to watch. She was skinny but no longer tiny. Her long legs would prop her across the court and through the air. She knew all the rules and all the moves. In high school, she led her basketball team to one victory after another. She eventually took them to Tennessee State Championship. So what sport did she play? Wilma had become accustomed to winning. Now she slumped on the bench, all the liveliness knocked out of her. But at the game that day was a college coach. He admired Wilma's basketball playing, but was really impressed by the way she ran. He wanted her for his track and field team. With his help, Wilma won a full athletic scholarship to Tennessee State University. She was the first member of her family to go to college. 8 years after she mailed her brace away, Wilma's long legs and years of hard work carried her thousands of miles from Clarksville, Tennessee. The summer of 1960, she arrived in Rome, Italy, to represent the United States at the Olympic Gold Games. Just participating in the Olympics was a deeply personal victory win for Wilma, but her chances of winning race were limited. The pressure from the public was intense. For the first time ever, the Olympics would be shown on television, and all the athletes knew that more than 100 million people would be watching. Worst of all, Wilma had twisted her ankle just after she arrived. It was swollen and painful on the day of her first race. So what do y'all think she's gonna do now that her ankle's sprained? Let's see. Yet once it was her turn to complete, Wilma forgot her ankle pain and everything else. She lunged forward, not thinking about her fear, her pain, or the sweat flying off her face. She ran better than she ever had, and she ran better than anyone else. Grabbing the attention of the whole world, Wilma Rudolph of the United States won the 100-meter dash. No one else came close. An Olympic gold medal was hers to take home. So when it came time for the 200-meter dash, Wilma's graceful long legs were already famous. Her ears buzzed with the sound of the crowd chanting her name. Such support helped her ignore the rain that was beginning to fall. When she crossed the finish line, she had done it again. She finished far ahead of everyone else. She earned the second gold medal. The 400-meter race was yet to come. Wilma's team faced the toughest competition of all, and as the fourth and final runner on her team, it was Wilma who had to cross the finish line. There she is running. Wilma's teammates ran well, passed the baton smoothly, and kept the team in first place. Wilma readied herself for the dash to the finish line as her third teammate ran towards her. She reached back for the baton and nearly dropped it, and as she tried to recover from the fumble, two other runners sped past her. Wilma and her team were suddenly in third place. Ever since the day that she had walked down the aisle at church, Wilma had known the power of concentration. Now, legs pumping, she put her mind to work in a final electrifying burst of speed. She pulled ahead by a fraction of a second. She was one of the first to flash across the finish line. The thundering cheers matched the thundering of her own heart. She had made history. She had won for an astounding third time. At her third ceremony that week, as the band played, Wilma stood tall and still like a queen, the last of her Olympic gold medals hanging around her neck. Wilma Rudolph, once known as the sickliest child in Clarksville, had become the fastest woman in the world. So do you like that story? Yeah. All right, so now we're just going to talk about it and have a little discussion. All right, so who was the main character in the story? Wilma. Good job. All right. So what would you say about Wilma, like some of her character traits?
She's determined.
Determined, that's good. So do you think her being determined helped her with her throughout the story, her overcoming all the obstacles? Yep. So it also said in the story that she overcame fear and pain when she first started walking. Is there anything else about her?
She was smart. She went to college.
Smart, good. Said she was the first one in her family too, so that says she was determined again. Alright. So now let's talk about some of the events that happened in the story. So can y'all remember when she was first born that everybody didn't think she would live? Do you know why?
She weighed 4 pounds.
4 pounds. Good job. Alright, so when she kept getting sicker and sicker, what did they eventually end up diagnosing her with? Good job. So she got. So they told her she would never walk again, and she was sad because she couldn't go to school. So how did she overcome not being able to go to school?
She worked hard to make it so she could walk.
So she could walk. Yep. She worked hard so she could walk and go to school. Where was the first time she walked at? Church. Good job. Alright, so after she started walking and she got the hang of it and she went back to school, what was one of the things she wanted to do at school?
Play basketball.
Good job. I remember she was so good at basketball, she ended up taking up something else, and that was what got her the scholarship. So what did she end up doing? Track. Good job. You're doing so good. Alright, so after she went to college, what did she end up going to do? The last big main event.
The Olympics.
The Olympics. Alright, so in the Olympics, she then became the fastest woman in the world. Alright, so how do y'all think all the actions that she took in the story led her to be able to do all these things? Do you think it's because of her traits, how she was determined, and she knew she wanted to get what she wanted to do, and she wanted to walk again, and she ended up becoming the fastest woman in the world? So do you see now how the traits kind of connect to what's going on in the story? We have to identify the character and understand what's going on with them before we can understand how it affects the sequence. All right, so good job, guys. All right. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you a story. And there's some questions I'm going to write on the board. And there's one question on the bottom, but I just want you to summarize the story. And then on the back, you're going to answer the questions on the board. And this will be what we take up as a grade. Just read over it real quick, and I'll put the questions on the board. Alright, so is everybody done reading it? Alright, so after you answer that first summarizing question, I want you to list the characters in the story. There should be 3 of them. And then I want you to tell me how can Sam change his actions in order to help Hallie. And then what happened to Hallie once Sam began changing his actions. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to work, and then the rest will be for homework.
Sorry.
Alrighty, so we're just gonna stop working on that and wrap it up, and then we'll just finish the rest for homework. Alrighty. So can anybody tell me what story we read today? And who it was about?
Wilma Rudolph.
Wilma Rudolph. Good job. Okay. So can anyone tell me what events led up to her becoming the fastest woman in the world?
She overcame polio.
Good. Yep. She overcame polio, and that polio made her not be able to do what? Walk. Okay. So then she overcame not being able to walk by pushing the odds and then being able to walk again. Good job. So tomorrow we're gonna read another story and keep talking about how characters affects events in the story and how their feelings and all that contribute to the events that are happening in the story. But that's all for today.